TG Geeks, episode 353, November 22nd, 2021, An Architect of Writing. Hello and welcome to another webcast from tggeeks.com, where Ben and Keith, the Two Gay Geeks, talk about all aspects of geekdom and nerdery, sci-fi, comics, film, horror genre, you name it, we talk about it. I'm Keith Lane. We're coming to you from TG Squared Studios in lovely Phoenix, Arizona, and it's almost the holidays are upon us.
Yeah. And I'm Ben Raggington, also coming to you from Winter is Almost Here, because soon the high temperature will be below 80. And that's how we know it's winter.
Exactly.
Here in Phoenix, Arizona.
Let's get on with it.
Prepare for hyperdrive.
Meanwhile, in the Hall of Episodes, the Two Gay Geeks are discussing this.
Well, in this episode, we have Ryan Gebhart, who is an author, and he has a couple of books out, as well as being an architect. He's going to tell us all about his exciting life. That's
an architect in D.C.
In D.C., it's truly amazing that an architectural. I think he started writing. He said when he was a student, and that the architects, I remember, 3 a.m. in the morning walking by the architectural school, and all the lights are on still. So, and then we have our birthday shout outs, our featured podcast of the week, and we have some feedback this week.
Yes.
We've been saving for a while, and our regular shout outs. In the second segment, I put a couple of things in there. If we have some things that, if we have time to talk about them, our wacky weekly recap, and then our regular shout outs. So let's go ahead and get started with this. And this time we welcome to our show Ryan Gebhart, who is an author of the Jewel of Life series. Welcome to the show, Ryan.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So you came to our attention, as several authors have already, through David R. Slayton, and it has just been wonderful, all the great people that we've been in contact with, and all of the wonderful material that he has sent to us, and the people that he sent to us. So tell us, who is Ryan Gebhart? How did you get into writing? Was it at a young age? Kind of give us an elevator pitch of your life as if you're going to the top of the Empire State Building, and what happened and how did you get into writing? Because you've had quite an interesting career getting to this point.
Yes. So the elevator pitch, I've always enjoyed writing ever since I was a kid, but I put it off for a while because I was more interested in architecture at the time. And, well, architecture just seemed like a more reasonable profession as someone going through high school. But after college, I sat down and I was reading a book. I can't remember what book it was now, but they were going through something, and I really just, I loved the story. Everything about it was amazing. And then the author just took a swing with a certain personal agenda. And it's like, oh, why are you doing that? And then it just completely turned me off on the author. And then when I was thinking about what I wanted to see in books, how I wanted to see myself in books, it was like, oh, someone should write something like that. And then the more I thought about it, it was like, oh, you could do it. And then I told myself, no, not me. And then before I knew it, I started writing in a tiny little notebook, and it kept getting bigger and bigger. And now there's a whole bin of this one book series and then another on the way.
I think we're sensing something pathological because I know that David Slayton said pretty much the same thing, that at least with him, he was reading all these because he loves epic fantasy, he loves world building stories, and yet he never saw himself in anything that was out there.
Right.
And in his case, it was LGBTQ representation. He didn't see that at all, and it was kind of driving him nuts. And he just started writing it, not for the intention of, publishing it. He was just writing it for himself. And the next thing you know, he's got, a novel that got, hot reviews in the New York Times. So I think that seems to be something of a pattern that we're sensing with a lot of the authors we talk to these days.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the case. Although it's funny, when I started writing this story out, I wasn't really even considering expressing myself in that way. And then much later, when I started writing the most recent novel, Shadow of the Lost, it focuses on two of the side characters and their adventures. And that was the first novel that actually allowed myself to express the LGBTQ community in a book, and it was incredibly freeing, to be honest. Mm-hmm. It was such a joy to write.
Interesting. And we're looking at a picture. It looks like you have a helper that when you write, a big
cat,
a big Maine Coon Siamese or Burmese or something.
She is Siamese and Ragdoll, and she's definitely my little muse, and she likes to help edit by walking on the keyboard.
Oh, well, of course.
We get that. Yeah.
I understand. We have 4 cats, so we're accustomed to the keyboard and the mouse problems.
Yeah, if they're not walking on our... Because Keith and I both have 2 computer desks, one for personal stuff and then one for work. And if they're not walking on the personal computer stuff, they're walking on the work desks. So we understand.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry about that. Just a little digression.
It was just cute. We saw the photo. I was like, oh, that's just so adorable.
Yeah.
Oh, she's the cutest. She'll probably hop out any moment now.
Oh, I'm sure.
Ours are hiding somewhere. I don't know where ours went.
We have one that I when I work, it's clockwork. She wants to be held at 9:00, and it doesn't matter if I'm on a Zoom call or not. She's up in my arms.
Yeah.
So
it's a new definition of OCD, obsessive cat disorder.
Yes.
Oh, that is so funny.
Anyway,
so let's get back to these books.
So how many books do you have? You said Shadow of the Lost is the most recent. How many are in the Jewel of Life series?
So right now there are 3 books in the main series. There'll be 7 total, and Shadow of the Lost is a side novel that happens between books 1 and 2 in the main series.
Aha, very interesting.
So I'm working on getting the 4th one published, hopefully early 2022.
Cool. And tell us what is the story? What is the main gist of the story without, obviously without spoilers. Or as many spoilers as you can, not give to us.
Right. So the main crux of the story is you come across the main character. His name is Devlin, and he grew up in a very small town. Has essentially been lied to his entire life. He thinks his parents were awful people, but then they actually weren't. And then a woman comes into town, a mysterious woman, and pretty much lays out everything in front of him. So he starts his adventure to find his family. And that adventure quickly evolves into going to a school for magic, and then that eventually goes to saving the world. One of those fun tropes.
Interesting.
But for Shadow of the Lost, the main character, his name is Gerald, and his story is a bit more of a tragedy. While the main series is a young adult, very positive, very optimistic, Shadow of the Lost is more on the mature side of the young adult spectrum, and that deals with grief and loss and really trying to love yourself and let others love you again. So.
Very interesting. So how long have these characters been with you? I mean, have you... Did you
really
grow
curious.
up with them?
Yeah,
or,
we're really...
I mean, have they kind of been percolating for years, or did it all of a sudden just happen for you? And we asked that question for a specific reason. So
yeah. So these characters, I can't believe it. They've been with me for about 10 years now.
Cool.
I really can't believe that.
How did you birth them?
Honestly, just the playing around with them in my head, and as writing down notes on yellow sheets of notepaper, and it really just kind of like sporadically grew. It wasn't too much planning ahead of time, but as the story developed, it's like, oh, that's who you are, and then they start having their own thoughts in the story. It's like, wait, I didn't know you were going to do that.
Okay, we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a bit. I'm really curious as to the conception, if you will, of this story, this universe that you created. I mean, was this just something that you were just kind of like? Because I know with some people, they like to just kind of play in their heads, like a fantasy world, just to kind of get away from just the daily stresses and just the problems that they have to deal with on a daily basis. They kind of retreat into this fantasy world where where they're kind of in control, they're God or they're the hero, whatever, however you want to call it. And then it sometimes for some people it grows from that, and then they find they have to start writing this down. Where was that beginning, that initial spark that gave you this universe that these stories take place in?
That's a good question. I think the main characters definitely developed around the same time the story that the world was starting to build, and it was, oh my gosh, if I look at those early notebooks, it's incredibly rudimentary and embarrassing. But I don't know which one came first or how the world came to be as it is in my head now. But just as I was working on the maps and developing that, with each iteration of the map, this world got more concrete and foundational. And as it went along, it's like, oh my, there's an actual book here now.
Wow, cool. So it all started kind of from just taking notes and then just grew from there. So that's fascinating, the way people do that. It just doesn't happen to me, but
Oh, it happens to me. I mean, I've actually, since my junior high years, I've written, but I don't show those things to anybody because they're totally derivative and garbage. But that's beside the point. Now, your professional background, you're in architecture. Is that correct?
Yep, that's right.
Okay, so now I'm curious where real life and creativity in the writing world, where they start to kind of blend. Have you found yourself, as you were beginning to do this world building, were there things in your own real life experience that you started drawing upon, either consciously or subconsciously, in the creation of this?
Yeah, well, it was the one very concrete example was when I started grad school, not when I started, but when I was in grad school, and I was working on trying to find out what my thesis was going to be, and I ended up doing a residential college for the university I was attending. So really changing the master plan and focusing on a more like Oxford setting of a residential college. And it didn't occur to me at first, but as I went along, it was like, oh my gosh, you're essentially designing the school in your world for your actual school thesis.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Wow. Cool.
Nice. So now this now comes to the question about the characters, and I think we already know where this is going. You sort of hinted at it, how these characters are sort of fully formed. That I'm assuming that is correct. Yes. I mean, by the time you started writing, they had their own identities and their own voices.
Oh yeah.
So did it reach a point? Because we've discovered this to varying degrees with different people that we write. Depending on how much they've worked with these characters determines how strong the voice becomes. Has it ever reached a point, or has it become the point where you now feel like you're sort of taking kind of dictation from them?
I mean, honestly, a little bit. Like I'll when I start a new book, I'll sit there and try to figure out where the story is going, and I'm absolutely terrible at outlining. So I'll have like some very awful outline, written down, and then when I actually go to write the story, the character's like, "Oh, I wasn't going to do that. I was going to let you think I was going to do that, and then I was going to do my own thing. Have fun with this."
Right.
But
okay.
It's a lot of fun though, because like as a writer, like the story just is happening as I'm writing. So I don't know. I love the surprise.
That's interesting. We have talked to a number of authors who have said that the characters sort of dictate where the story is going to go, and you can't stop them from doing that. You can redirect them or say, "Hey, we'll get to that, but we've got to get to this point first." So.
Yeah,
right.
We're like I said, we're friends with a number of authors, and there's one who lives in North Carolina who has he has just created this incredible universe of in this urban fantasy, and he's been doing these short stories that are connected to this universe. And next thing he knows, one of his secondary characters decides to completely hijack the story. I mean, he kind of goes on about it on social media about, I never expected Karen to completely take over the story and do this, and this, which I thought was hilariously funny. Or another author who said she had to scrap 3 chapters because she intended the story to go this way until another character said, "No, we're doing it this way."
No, I'm important.
I'm important.
You have to write about me.
Right. Or yesterday, when talking to David Slayton, he mentioned how this one other character that kind of just sits in the background finally kind of perked up and said, "Okay, it's my turn now." Yeah, so it's fascinating to see the psychological aspects of this, and I'm puzzled as to why there are not more psychologists and psychiatrists who are doing studies on the brains of authors, because I think it's a fascinating place.
I think it's fascinating, but maybe there's a reason why not.
Yeah, you're all...
They're going to lock you all up?
Yeah, a little schizophrenic exactly.
There. Yeah, I can just see some pseudo Sigmund Freud. So what seems to be the problem? Yeah, don't need any of that. But still, I think it's fascinating to see how the brain works and how these characters manifest themselves. And you've had a few surprises during the creative process.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things that's happening in the current book that I'm writing is that the main characters are only like half the story now, whereas before the main characters, they dictated the entire story. But in the most recent book, it's becoming a more divided perspective, where all of a sudden there are 5-6 different storylines that are starting to weave through this epic fantasy series that, I mean, when I started, I just wasn't expecting that. I thought it was going to be very focused on one character, but all of a sudden, all these other characters are like, "Hey, over here."
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Fascinating.
Wow. And so they're vying for attention. and obviously that's how Shadow of the Lost, I would say, probably was birthed, is you have all these side characters and they need an outlet too. So
yeah, I intended that one to just be a short novella, and then before I knew it, it's like, okay, you want a longer story? That's fine.
That's common too. Yeah. We've encountered that. But have you also encountered situations where all of a sudden you see not necessarily a story that involves side characters, but a side story that kind of takes a life of its own, not due to the characters of itself, but because of its side plot?
Oh, yeah. I keep... since I'm working on like a 7-book series, there's a lot of time in between the actual writing process where, my mind is like just relaxing a little bit not relaxing, it's in the editing and all that other stuff. But during that downtime, there'll be other world building things that just start coming into the story. And thank goodness it's like started to slow down because, there's not any more time for world building. But most recently, like this whole other race of dragon elves came into the story, which I didn't know they existed. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, wow, this is really neat. I'm going to keep going with this. Oh, this ties in perfectly. Oh, that just fills that loophole that plot hole I was trying to figure out earlier. Okay, we're good.
So these things these kinds of things are happening during your editing process then?
Yeah.
Wow. Far out. Well, that kind of makes sense. I mean, because what I write now, I write reviews, but I will notice that I'll just start writing and whatever comes out, and then it's during my editing process that I'm like, oh, I need to, other ideas kind of pop into my head, and I say I need to address this, blah blah blah. So, I guess in some way that kind of makes sense. So, so you're editing book 4 right now, correct?
Yeah. Well, so book 4 is almost completely done edits. I'm actually writing book 5 right now, and I'm going to do the last round of edits of book 4 once book 5 is the first draft of that is done.
Okay. So when did book 1 come out?
That came out in 2018.
Okay. Nice.
Hectic because I was still in grad school for that.
Oh dear Lord. Wow. Well, you're not the first person to have to try and write a novel in the midst of a daily vocation, if you will. I'm just curious. What has been the response for it?
It's received a pretty good response. The only thing is, as an independent writer and publisher, just marketing is incredibly difficult for me. So it's like, I can't compete against these big publishers. But I love going to small Comic-Cons and craft fairs and getting in front of people and telling them about the book. And it's funny, 2 years or almost 3 years after the first book came out, I'm going to these same events again. Thank goodness now that things are opening up. And they're like, oh, I read your first book and I loved it. I was like, oh, I have more now.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
That's great.
And the conventions are a great way to get your name out there because we've encountered a number of independent authors through conventions alone. And, just the fact that they're independent is not a slight on the quality of their writing. Oh, no. They're fantastic writers. They just don't have a publisher because it can be a wicked business. So it's nice to know. It's nice to know that you're doing really well. So where can people find your books?
Yeah, so they're all over. They're all on Amazon, and as well through any distributors. But they can also find me on through Twitter. My Twitter handle is ry_Gebhart, and then I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, all that fun stuff. Not TikTok, though.
Okay, that's fine. And TikTok. Not TikTok. And what can people also find your books in an e-format?
Yeah, they're available on Kindle.
Yay, because Keith and I are in our 60s and we have old eyes and sometimes trying to read old hands and trying to read, I find that it's very hard for me to read printed books these days. It's just, my eyes just can't handle it anymore. Yeah. So having it on a Kindle is a great thing for me. So you've got the social media and you have a website, I believe, correct?
Yeah. The website is ryandgebhart.com.
Excellent.
Cool. And when is the next book due to be out? You said early 2022. Is that correct?
Yeah, early 2022.
Cool. Well, this has been a really great conversation. Thank you, Ryan, for being on our show.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Hi, this is Barbara.
And Bryant Dillon of Fanbase Press.
And you are listening to the Two Gay Geeks.
My favorite music.
Yeah.
And here's a few selected birthdays for November 22nd. or the 22nd, sorry, through November 28th. The tooth. 2021. November 22nd. Jamie Lee Curtis. Oh my gosh. Actress. What do you say about Jamie Lee Curtis? I just love her.
I adore her.
Ms. Halloween herself.
Yeah.
And so many things to say about her. She's great at drama.
Oh,
and
she's fantastic in comedy.
And fantastic comedy. I mean, I'm thinking of Christmas with the Cranks. We may have to watch that now.
We might have to watch that again. I'm also thinking of some really choice scenes that she had in Knives Out, where all she did was just give expressions, and they said everything you needed to know.
Exactly. She is the godmother of Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, interesting.
That's far out.
And she and her daughter Ruby are Warcraft fans, and usually participating together, playing together, etc.
Cool.
And even going to cons in costume.
Oh, awesome.
So
and probably no one recognizes them.
No. Then we have Scarlett Johansson, actress, most known for as Black Widow, Natasha Romanoff.
And now working on something rather secret with Marvel.
Yeah.
Who knows what that could be?
And has been a spokesperson for Moet and Chandon.
Oh, I didn't know that either. Far out.
Yeah. And then Benjamin Britten, composer.
The Britons.
One of Britons. Who are the Britons?
We all are. And I'm your king.
And I'm your king. How did you get to be king then?
The lady... Oh, we're not going down that road,
some
people.
Some moistened bent lopped a scimitar at me. One of England's favorite sons. Some might say he was actually a prodigy. By the age of 14, he had already written string quartets, a symphony, piano sonatas, and an oratorio. And most known for his Young Person's Guide to the Orchestra and his 14 operas.
Yeah.
And long rumored to be gay. And then we have a friend of ours, Kyle Homewood. He actually was the director of education for Arizona Opera for a while.
He left and went off to do other things. Miss him a lot. He's a really great guy.
Really great guy. November 23rd, Oded Fehr.
Ooh, I like this guy.
Actor. Oh my gosh. He is just, he has done so much in so many small bit parts, and then his star began to rise. You know, lots of TV.
He broke through when he appeared in the first Mummy,
right?
That was out in the like late 90s.
Yep.
He that was a breakthrough role for him, and now you're finding him everywhere.
Yep. Lots of television and Blood and Treasure. He was terrifying and
very good in that.
And a few movies. And
now in Discovery.
Now Starfleet Discovery.
He's a senior admiral.
Admiral Starfleet. Michael Gough, actor, British, lots of British TV, including 2 roles in Doctor Who. One way back in the late 60s.
The Celestial Toymaker.
Yes, and then was Counselor Hedden. In
Cardinal Hedden. Or Chancellor. Chancellor Hedden. Arc of Infinity.
Yes. And then Alfred in several of the Batman movies.
Yes.
And then we have a friend of ours, Nobilis Reed, and our intrepid movie reviewer in Los Angeles.
Yep.
Defette C. Yes, she's done a lot for us. And then November 24th, Scott Joplin. He was a wonderful American piano and songwriter, just a down-home, I typically... Americana music.
I would call it American classical.
Yeah. So, and just so many different piano ditties. And he was the... I wouldn't call
he's not the father of ragtime, because ragtime goes back beyond that.
But he certainly made ragtime popular.
Oh, yes.
Very popular. And then we have Forrest J Ackerman.
Oh, my goodness.
Writer, editor, actor. Oh my gosh.
What he did for sci-fi.
Yes. And he had so many bit parts in films.
Oh, okay.
I mean, tiny bit
parts. Just in the background, huh?
Yeah. One of them was Man with Insect Repellent. I mean, they were just like walk-on roles.
Okay.
That was like in Bikini Horror or some.
Oh, a real bad B film.
Oh,
huh?
yeah.
Okay.
Big collector of memorabilia.
Well, his home became like a museum.
Exactly.
And when he was alive, people wanted to come by and see everything that he had.
Yep.
Which was everything under the sun.
Exactly.
He would allow people to come in. And then his health turned badly, and they had to kind of like cut that down a bit. So I'm not entirely sure what's happened to his estate now.
I didn't see exactly what happened to all of it, but he is actually credited with first using the term sci-fi for science fiction.
Yeah, well, I think he was the person who put science fiction onto the path of popular culture.
Yep. Creator of famous Monsters of Filmland. Oh my gosh, I bought every one I could find. And then the store that was carrying it quit carrying it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God.
That sucks.
Yeah. And then we have friend of ours, Sarah Maria Rainier. And then your sister, Noelle Hughes. And B. Green, former supervisor, manager of mine.
Right.
I love B. She's a great cook, too. And just an all-around good person.
Mm-hmm. Happy birthday to all of them.
November 25th, Jeffrey Hunter, actor, would-be captain of the Enterprise. Instead, he was promoted to admiral. That's not exactly how it happened,
that's
but
not quite how it happened.
That's what it looks like. He was actually the Captain Pike in the first pilot,
The Cage,
and then decided not to go on with the series because they had requested a new pilot, and he didn't want to do it. He went on. He wanted to focus on his film career, and then came back and did as Admiral Pike in, or was it he? I thought he was Admiral.
No.
Oh, he's still Captain Pike.
No, he's still Captain Pike and living on Talos 4.
Yes. Anyway. It was the first friend that Roger Moore made in Hollywood.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then we have Nikolai Pirigov. He was a physician, considered to be the founder of field surgery back in the 1800s.
Oh.
First surgeon to use anesthesia for in-field surgery.
Oh my God.
And
I'm sure the patients like that.
Yep. And first physician to use ether as an anesthetic.
Oh, yeah, because those poor patients, when you're getting, field triage, I mean, no, thank you.
Yeah. Amputations,
I can't even begin to imagine what it was like to do that without any kind of medicinal
Well, they poured lots of rum down their throat, or vodka, or
and I don't even think that was enough.
Yeah, exactly. He's also credited with several surgical procedures and using plaster casts for broken bones.
Wow, he's quite the innovator.
Yeah. And also on November 25th, Mr. Bailey Hall.
Happy birthday, Bailey.
Who is going to be going to film school here.
Yeah.
Soon.
I'd like to talk to him and get his take on what it's all about.
Exactly. November 26th, Willis Carrier. His birthday should be a holiday in Phoenix. He was the inventor of the first air conditioner in 1902.
Oh, yes. We would not have been able to settle Phoenix today.
Exactly.
Although I will admit that the pioneers who came in and settled the greater Phoenix Valley, they were made of much hardier stuff than we are today.
Well, and they lived in tents a lot.
They did. But we would not be able to completely develop Phoenix into the metropolitan city that it is today without the benefit of an air conditioning unit.
Yep. And then Tina Turner, singer, actress. She
my
was
goodness.
the Acid Queen in Tommy. And,
that was a freaky role.
Oh, yeah. And then in Mad Max Thunderdome, a couple of other films. And wow, what I guess you could call her a pop artist. She started out in rhythm and blues with Ike, and they did Proud Mary. I mean, that was their song, and then it got remade by everybody under the sun.
Right.
But she currently lives in Switzerland.
She's a survivor.
Fabulous.
Yeah, I mean, she came back in the 80s, and her career just went through the roof after that.
Exactly. November 27th, Anders Celsius, Swedish astronomer, physicist and mathematician, proposed the centigrade temperature scale in 1742.
Now called the Celsius scale.
Yes. Alison Pill, actress.
I know that name.
Yes, she was in Newsroom.
Oh,
She was also in Scott
okay.
Pilgrim and Star Trek Picard as Dr. Agnes Girardi.
Right.
Yes. I was scrolling down. And I said, "Oh my gosh!" I didn't realize that was her.
Oh, you didn't?
Well,
I mean,
I recognized her, and then I looked at the name, and I said, "Why does that name sound familiar?" And then it's like, "Oh yeah,
yeah."
I know now."
I remember her when we saw her in Newsroom, which of course, the series was several years old.
Right.
And I
when we
recognized
watched
her
it.
immediately. Oh, she was the doctor in Picard.
Exactly. We kind of went backwards.
Yeah, I just didn't. I could not recall the name of her. Was she her real name?
Her real name.
Oh,
Yes.
wake up!
November 28th, Randy Newman.
Short people.
Composer, songwriter, Toy Story and 2 and 3.
Yeah.
And Cars, Monsters, Inc., Princess and the Frog. Oh my gosh.
That's right. That
all
was his.
kinds of just wonderful film scores. And then we have Joe Dante, director, TV and movies, Gremlins, Inner Space. Started out as Roger Corman's trailer editor.
No, that's right. He did.
Yep.
And then he later went on to do two movies that I just absolutely love: The Rocketeer, and if I'm not mistaken, Captain America: First Avenger.
Yeah.
That was his too.
Recall. And then was considered to direct the Doctor Who in 1996.
That would have been interesting.
Yeah, it could have been very interesting. And then we have friend of ours, Linda Reese, who is a props manager.
Oh, yes.
Lots of TV shows. And
I remember talking to
films. And that's it for the birthdays this time.
Technorama, the podcast for geeks, because geeks are better than cool. You don't hear someone say, "Get away from me, you cool person." Who's gonna have their 65-inch home theater system installed by the Cool Squad? Not me, that's for sure. How much cool cred do you have? Not enough to care about. Think you'll find any canned unicorn meat at thinkcool.com? It's just a part domain name. They don't even have roadkill in a paper cup. That's why you need to start listening to Technorama, because that's what geeks do. Go to chuckchat.com and listen to Technorama before you turn cool.
Go give a listen to our friends Chuck and Craig at Technorama Podcast.
I'm Daniel Radcliffe, and I believe that reaching out for help is the bravest thing a person can do. If you are struggling and need support, call the Trevor Lifeline at 1-866-488-7386. It's free and confidential, and trained counsellors are there to listen 24/7 without judgment. To learn more about the Trevor Project's life-saving work for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or questioning young people, go to thetrevorproject.org.
We want to tell you about, as we always do, if you have never listened to before, we like to give a shout out to Joshua Tree Feeding Program. They are a 501c3 nonprofit food pantry for the HIV and AIDS community in Maricopa and Pinal counties. Joshua Tree offers a place where the clients can select from a wide assortment of nutritional foods to take home, and they set it up just like a store so the clients can pick and choose exactly what they want, and it empowers them, and no food is wasted. They also have a second distribution time for those in the gender non-conforming community that may be experiencing food insecurity regardless of HIV status. They could always use your help. They're an all-volunteer organization. If you want to give a single gift or a monthly recurring gift, you can go to jtfp.org.
Now, before we get to the feedback, I have to make a correction. I was wrong. It was not Joe Dante that did The Rocketeer. and Captain America First Avenger. So people don't start screaming at me just yet. It was Joe Johnston who did those 2 movies.
Don't listen to him.
So pay no attention to that man behind the microphone.
Exactly.
Anyway, now it is time for our feedback. These are comments that we got.
And that was just for Arkle.
That was just for Arkle, yes, because I could just imagine he was cracking his knuckles.
He's already, as we're recording this, he's already typing up his response.
And now he's going, oh, damn it, now I can't send that. And I got to listen to something else that Ben's going to get wrong. Anyway, now it's time for our feedback segment, and these are comments that we received in response to articles that we ran on our website and on social media. And the links for each of these items will be in the show notes for this episode number 353 at tggeeks.com, starting with regarding Ben's breakdown. Dune is an artistic achievement, but is also dull. Got a comment from your old friend Bill Hensley saying, I'm looking forward to watching this tomorrow, as of when he wrote this. To prepare, I watched the 1984 version.
Which one?
There is. Oh, that's a good point. Well, no, not really. Alan Smithy was later than 1984. 1984 is David Lynch.
Well, true.
Alan Smithy, that was like 90.
He made some great films.
Alan Smithy?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, they're fantastic. Anyway, he then finished off by saying, and Ben, 3 out of 5 Chris knives. You get it, my friend. Well, thank you. And Bill, I'd like to know what you really thought of the film. You haven't said yet.
Exactly.
So I'd really like to know. Then we got a comment from fellow Phoenix critic, Jeff Mitchell. I really like this guy because he and I generally are on the same wavelength. He said, yes, we had very similar reactions. Dune equals thumbs up and thumbs down. And then he says, I like what you wrote, especially about Dune or specific scenes feeling like, and then he quotes me, walking around a museum, stylish art and sterile. That's Dune exactly.
Yep, exactly.
He says, nicely done, Ben. And yes, great minds think alike.
Yep.
Moving on regarding TG Geeks episode number 348 from our good friend Corey Lynn Nelson. She says, you mentioned F. Murray Abraham in this episode about his birthday. I happened upon the series Mythic Quest on Apple TV+. Liking the show a lot, but my jaw dropped when I saw F. Murray Abraham as one of the regular cast members. Love that he took on this role as a story writer for the show's online game. Check it out. We just might have to. Got a comment regarding TG Geeks episode number 349. We gave a birthday shout out to Dwayne Smither, who says, thanks, guys. And we close this off regarding Arizona Opera's The Copper Queen film is heartbreakingly beautiful. You should have called this Keith's Corner.
Well, that's true.
And we got a comment from Arizona Opera on Instagram saying, we're so glad you could join us for the premiere. Love.
Yes.
And that's our feedback for this week.
And if you want to leave a comment, you can do that on anything that we publish, whether it's our episodes or on some of the articles that we publish, such as what we talked about here. You can do that on our Facebook page, our Twitter page, our Instagram page, or directly on the website, tggeeks.com. If you prefer, you can call our listener feedback line and you can leave us a voicemail. We'll play it on air. We haven't had one of those in a while.
No.
Call us. You can call 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 469-844-3357. And as always, please play nice. Well, as everybody knows, we are huge supporters of independent creators, whether it's filmmakers, comic book artists, writers, or others. Please go to their Etsy pages, their Facebook pages, their Instagram, Twitter, web pages, wherever they have their stuff. Look at their stuff, buy their stuff, tell other people about their stuff, talk to them about their stuff. Please support independent creators. If you are trans or are questioning your gender identity, and if you are in crisis or are feeling isolated and need someone to talk to, or you know of someone in a similar situation, there is a special hotline just for you. The hotline is provided by translifeline.org and staffed by trained counselors who are transgender themselves. The hotline in the U.S. is 877-565-8860. In Canada, it is 877-330-6366. or you can go to translifeline.org to learn about the important work they are doing. Please reach out for help. You are not alone.
Yeah, baby. They're like two gay geeks. They're together, you know. They're two gay guys and they're geeks. Is that okay?
Well, we actually have a couple of minutes today. We
Yeah.
can talk about something.
A few of
we don't
these
have
things.
to talk about all of these. I mean, we talked about a couple of them already, but I think, it's worth mentioning. We finished off The Lost Symbol.
Mm-hmm.
And as we said last time, and we've said for several weeks now, it looks like they had about
I'm thinking 6 to 7 episodes
of content
which they stretched
that
out
they stretched into 10 to fulfill the order.
Yeah.
And it began to get tedious. It was good. I liked the series.
I enjoyed it, but
it was like it
has
about
problems.
after they hit the big stuff, it was kind of like you're going 100 miles an hour and all of a sudden you slow down to 20 and then it's like, oh my God.
And we watched it, as of this recording, we watched it the night before, and they didn't answer everything.
No.
The final resolution was disappointing in that they dropped one huge clue, which turned out to be more than just a red herring.
Right. I mean,
it amounted to nothing.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of plutonium in this.
Yeah, tons of it.
It's almost as if they started writing themselves down a path,
and they got
and
lost.
then they said, "No, that's not going to work. Let's go in another direction." And then all of a sudden, they just dropped it and went someplace else.
They did that at least 2 points that we could remember last night.
Yeah.
And that was disappointing to me. I like the cast.
Absolutely,
I think the cast is great.
fabulous.
I really like Ashley Zuckerman as Robert Langdon. I think he's great. And Eddie Izzard is always wonderful to watch and was fantastic in this show.
Yeah.
So I like the acting. I like the way these characters were portrayed. But as far as a story goes, it started off great and ended weakly. Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened.
Unlike this next show.
Oh my God. We finished Foundation last night as well.
Wow.
Oh my Lord. I had kind of suspected for a while now, but I wasn't sure until the very end. And it was like, that makes absolute sense, the way they wrote it. And I'm not going to give the spoiler away for those that have not watched it. But Foundation, they really, I mean, if they never do another.
They could actually end it there. I mean, there's still some loose threads.
Yeah, there's still some loose threads.
I mean, I want to know what the heck happened on Trantor.
If they just left it at that,
I would be satisfied.
I would be satisfied.
I would too.
But you read some trivia that it looks like it's supposed to be 8
seasons was the pitch.
Wow, that's going to be massive,
and
just
it will,
massive.
and it's going to have some really huge reveals with one of the secondary characters. So and I just read more on it a little earlier today, and am just like blown away by how far that's going to go.
Yeah,
if they manage to pull that off, and I kind of hope they do.
Yep. And then we have a Star Trek progeny. That one.
Yeah.
The kids show. The Nickelodeon
show.
Yeah. Which was really good.
I enjoyed it.
I'm when I finally, as I said last week, when I finally said to myself and said to you, this is a kids show, then I can accept their shortcuts, if you will. And it really, while Dal is annoying beyond belief, he has.
We saw some serious growth in him in this last episode.
We've seen some growth, and we've seen some growth in all of the characters.
Yes,
I thought it was really great.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to more.
I'm very much looking forward to more. I think this series has a lot of promise to it, and the way it is resonating with today's young people, I think is very exciting.
Exactly. And then.
Oh, my God. Discovery. That came back with, wow, hit the ground running.
I'm telling you. Yeah, it was.
That was really good.
Exciting.
I was just totally enthralled with it. That was a great opening.
My favorite line is, "She's a politician. Don't hit her in the head."
Yeah. Yeah, that was the series had some really good lines in that. Shields are holding at 25%. Oh, I love 25%.
Yeah.
It was a very thrilling
really
episode.
Good. And then in the ready room to see Will talking to Sonequa Martin.
Yeah.
Green, that was great.
It was nice to have that. My only complaint is, and I'm not going to say what it is, because we have a lot of our friends from outside of the United States who have not been able to watch this. I'm not going to get on whether it's right or wrong. But I will say that this episode had one huge missed opportunity.
Yeah.
It was a gigantic one. And for anybody who has seen the episode and refer to the episode title will know what I'm talking about. And I'm going to leave that at that.
Yep. And then we've talked about it every week.
We have to talk about it again.
We're Here just continues to be great. Continues to raise the bar. They're going to raise the bar so high for themselves.
Well, I thought that's what they did in the first season. By the time that was over, I could not see how they could eclipse that. I just assumed we would get more of the same, which I would have been happy with.
Yeah.
But they have not. They have completely gone beyond that.
It's the storytelling of, I'm sure they have hundreds of hours on the cutting room floor, but the storytelling through what they cut together is so compelling for each city that they go to.
Yeah.
It's great. So that's our second segment. That's our second segment. So here we go. We're moving on.
And it's time for our weekly review. These are items that we ran on our website at tggeeks.com this past week, and the links for each of these will be in the show notes for this episode article that you can find at tggeeks.com, episode number 353. Starting with Sunday, November 14th, Nerdy Chupacabras number 74. On Monday the 15th, TG Geeks episode number 352. On Tuesday the 16th, Focus Features release trailer for Downton Abbey, A New Era.
I almost screwed that title up whenever I put it in there.
Downtown?
I almost said A New Batch.
Oh, okay.
I caught myself. I had to take it out because I tucked it in there.
Moving on, Wednesday the 17th, Disney releases featurette Meet the Madrigals of the new film Encanto. On Thursday the 18th, Jeannie's Yaps review Red Notice, as well as Andrea's Angle, Julia, A Love Letter to the Chef. On Friday the 19th, Hamish Downey's 5 Questions with Danielle Rock. And on Saturday the 20th, Give the Gift of Horror, American Psycho, Krampus, and more at frightrags.com.
They have some really cool stuff.
They always do. We have some shout-outs that we need to make, as always. First to Arkle, Brian Weber, our good friend on Twitter, known as Geek of All Trades, G, number 3, KOFALLTRADESEIEIO. He's also there referred to as Brian the Ampersand List YouTuber. And his Arkle Times Post-Dispatch News is back, which you can find. All you have to do is look for Geek of All Trades, and you can find the Post-Dispatch News. And while you're looking for all things Arkle, go to his YouTube channel, youtube.com/Arkle Studios. He has his Shameless Cash Grab series, which is now in Season 7. Yay. As well as his Rants vs. Zombies series. Yes, it is over, but past episodes still there. He also has his new item of Arkle Tier Ranks and his game videos of Trick and Treat, as well as Star Trek Online. We must also give some shout-outs to a couple of Facebook groups for allowing us to post our episodes and relevant articles on their pages. First, Two Gay Geeks After Hours. We give big thanks to the moderators for saying that we could share away our content. And their URL is facebook.com/group/Gay Geeks After Hours. And then to The Gay Geek for all of the same. And their URL is facebook.com/group/The Gay Geek. And as always, we give special thanks to their moderator, Jeremiah Reeves.
Thank you, Jeremiah. Other places we can be found are Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, Amazon Podcasts, as well as where other fine podcasts can be found. Also, check us out on Sci-Fi Radio at 3 a.m. and 3 p.m. Pacific Time on Tuesdays for a replay, and listen to their other content, their 24-hour geeky internet radio station. Please rate us and review us on iTunes, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And that's it for this time and this episode of TG Geeks Webcast. Be sure to check out the article for this webcast episode. We'll have several links on the page. Remember, you can comment on our Facebook page or our website, tggeeks.com, or leave us a voicemail at 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 469-844-3357. From TG Squared Studios, I'm Keith Lane. Thanks for listening. Please be kind to yourself and those around you. Stay safe. Wear a mask. Get vaccinated. Peace.
Cheers.